Hello everyone and welcome back once again to the Justice for Aaron Brady campaign. We're just coming up to Easter now, and the trial that's ongoing at the moment in the CCJ in Dublin has taken a break for the Easter holidays. And we're just going to have a look back at some of the events during the trial, and one of those events in particular is a witness testimony that took place last week, and it was reported on by court reporter Alison O'Riordan. And we can see here from the headlines, it's actually the same article, but the Sunday World and Breaking News just have differing headlines. So just the Sunday World, witness claims housemate of Garda killer Aaron Brady tells robbery trial he felt under pressure from the Gardaí. And the second one at the bottom there is from Breaking News Online. Aaron Brady housemate tells Lordship trial he did not see the accused on the night of the raid. As I say, differing headlines, but the story is basically the same that was penned by Alison O'Riordan. And indeed, it was an excellent article, but just one or two things we feel was omitted from the article, Miss O'Riordan. We used the word during the course of the article, he was pressured to make a second statement 4 years after his initial statement. But again, there was a blatant attempt here, we say, to omit the word where this young man told the court where he was intimidated. Other than that, excellent article, Miss O'Riordan. But you also did fail to mention that the young man told us during the course of his testimony that he was stopped on numerous occasions. And his car, he was taken out of the car and searched when and while he was leaving his girlfriend to work in Castleblaney. But other than that, excellent article and very well written. But you did fail to mention that the young man did say that his family was intimidated and that his father was intimidated. Just didn't mention that in the course of the article. But other than that, an excellent article. But you did sort of fail to mention that this young man had several scores of interactions on the Garda information system. And the unusual thing in respect of this is this young man was never arrested in relation to anything. And he was never a suspect in anything or never questioned about anything. Yet he had over 140 interactions with Garda Síochána, and these are only the interactions that were recorded on the Garda system. But you just failed to mention that, which is an extraordinary number of times to have been stopped, followed, cited and reported by on Garda Síochána. It would be pushing into the realms of intimidation, I think is the word we're looking for, Alison. You also just failed to mention that this young man did go to Garda Síochána in May 2017 and told Garda Síochána in the presence of his solicitor that the statement this young man had given in 2013 was correct as far as he was concerned. You just failed to mention that bit. Other than that, yeah, the article is quite good. But you did fail to mention, Miss O'Riordan, that when the young man again, I will say, and he said under oath, given his testimony, that he was pressured to go to Garda Síochána again. And he was advised by Garda Síochána not to take his solicitor with him. So other than that, the article is excellent. Couple of little bits possibly omitted. I know there's a lot of information, but it's just for completedness. I thought I would mention those few bits of information. And we wouldn't want anyone to think that we were living or part of a society where the media was peddling one side of a story rather than the whole story. And it was moving on to the second aspect of this video. It was actually during a conversation with a legal representative in America, where we're going through some of the aspects of the case that's taking place at the moment. And the lawyer actually mentioned, he said, this is like Alice in Wonderland stuff. And that sort of triggered that I had heard this term used before during the course of the court, that we were going through the looking glass and we were into Alice in Wonderland territory, and that we were in some way joining the party that was that took place in Alice's adventures in Wonderland. But I think it's very important. It struck a chord with me, as I said, and when we look back at what happened during Aaron's trial, we can have a little look at some of the things that actually did happen, which a lot of people did at the beginning of Aaron's campaign, as we began Aaron's campaign, believed that we was talking from the realms of Wonderland. That we were, as Mr. Graham put it at one time, looking at things in the ether, things that do not exist. But they do very much exist, and we have proven that on numerous occasions. If we take, for example, the behaviour of An Garda Síochána, particularly Senior Investigating Officer with Homeland Security Officer Mr. Matt Katsky, a partnership we have dealt with in a number of our videos, where this man, Mr. Matt Katsky, approached one of the suspects and offered them green cards, immunity from prosecution, and this agent was also involved with Ronan, with Christopher, with all the layers and the criminals like Daniel Cahill, who give statements against Aaron. So I think we're in the realms, definitely here, of Wonderland and what would normally be seen as something on TV as fantasy. But this actually happened, and it is documented on legal documents. We looked then at a situation into the looking glass where Senior Investigating Officer Mr. Mark Phillips and Detective Jim McGovern and Detectives Paul Gill liaised and worked with a man who was on the run from Ireland, from Northern Ireland, in respect of £30,000 worth of cocaine, £30,000 worth of cash, guns and ammunition. This young man's house was shot at after he absconded from Ireland, and the drugs gangs were threatening his life. Yet Mark Phillips, Jim McGovern, Paul Gill and indeed Pat Marry were fully aware of the man they were taking a statement of was an illegal immigrant and was wanted back in Northern Ireland for the crimes mentioned. And that's only some of the crimes mentioned. Then we have a situation with this gentleman here and Mr. Brendan Graham, Senior Counsel for the prosecution, and no doubt would be seen as and is regarded as one of the most respected counsel in Irish legal circles. And this man stood up in court, pointed at Aaron Brady and says, "You are the man who shot and murdered Detective Garda Adrian Donoghue." When Brendan Graham was fully aware of the facts that the man who shot and murdered Detective Garda Adrian Donoghue was over 6 foot tall, and he was looking at Aaron Brady every day for 9 months, and he knew when he was making that statement in the theatrics of the CCJ in front of a jury that he was creating a false narrative and telling lies in respect of the man who shot and murdered Detective Garda Adrian Donoghue. And only we witnessed this, and we are here to tell, and the jury and everyone that was in the court are fully aware of those instances when Brendan Graham stood up and pointed at our son Aaron Brady as the man who shot and murdered Detective Garda Adrian Donoghue, when clearly he, the DPP solicitor and all the prosecuting legal team knew Aaron Brady could not be the man who shot and murdered Detective Garda Adrian Donoghue. They knew this from the testimony of the witnesses and the stills from the CCTV footage. It would be physically impossible for Aaron Brady to have been the murderer of Detective Garda Adrian Donoghue. We move then into the realms of what Judge Michael White undertook during the course of Aaron's trial. He said categorically and clearly that the car stolen in Clogherhead, a blue Passat, was the vehicle used in the murder and robbery. And we were in court and we heard clearly the only person who seen the vehicle, the getaway vehicle correctly, for nearly a minute, parked directly in front of her, Mary, the credit union worker, said the car was dark grey. And it has been revealed now during the course of this trial that as Detective Garda Joe Ryan, Detective Garda Adrian Donoghue's partner on that night, the man who was looking directly at the robbers and the murderers, followed the raiders out through the gate of Lordship Credit Union. And from what we are told, he had drawn his weapon and he was taking aim at the getaway vehicle. And he did not fire because he had assessed the situation and had assumed that the threat was gone. And he did not want to open fire because obviously there was other traffic on the Carlingford Road. It was only when Detective Garda Ryan returned back into the car park that he realised that his friend and his colleague had lost his life. And at that point on the Garda radio, Detective Ryan said that the vehicle that had left the scene of the murder and the robbery was a dark grey Passat. And here we are in the realms of Netherlands, or the Netherland or Wonderland, where to suit a narrative that simply does not exist, we are led to believe that the vehicle was a blue Passat, when it is clear and obvious that it cannot be that vehicle that was involved in the murder and robbery. It was a grey Passat. And that is from the eyewitnesses. 2 eyewitnesses who are looking directly at the vehicle. Then we have the situation where, again, it is unbelievable, we're into the realms of Narnia, where a woman disappears. Again, from the evidence given from the credit union worker, stated very clearly, and I said in a very short statement, mentioned her, she, stupid bitch, woman, young Irish woman, 25 to 30-year-old blonde woman, over 50 times in a short statement. She said in her testimony not 4 weeks ago in court in Dublin, she was still of the opinion that it was a woman who was driving the vehicle. And that woman has been made disappear through the looking glass by the DPP and Brendan Graham and the Irish State and on Garda Síochána, because it doesn't fit their narrative in the framing of Aaron Brady, because they cannot link any female to Aaron or the other 2 men that are in court at the moment. They cannot link a female to the 3 boys simply because they weren't there and there is no female can be linked to it. Indeed, Brendan Graham, and I've said this before, had a disgusting act of, during his speech to the jury, tried to insinuate that a young girl from Crossmaglen who was undergoing chemotherapy at the time had short blonde hair, trying to insinuate and throw out there that there could possibly be a female driver linked to Aaron Brady. And then Brendan Graham actually mentioned a young girl in court on numerous occasions as a possible female driver. And it turns out then subsequently this young girl was called as a prosecution witness because she was in a hairdresser's in Dundalk at the time of the murder and robbery. So Brendan Graham made a number of cynical and sick attempts to create a radar that simply did not exist or have any connection with Aaron Brady or the 2 young men that are on trial now at the moment. So this is the stuff of fantasy. This is the stuff of Wonderland. Then, if that wasn't enough, we go to this situation where a young girl who we say may have medical and mental issues was allowed to give evidence from her kitchen in New York to our son's trial in Dublin, in a situation where she told the judge, Michael White, that she was on her own and she had been advised that she should be on her own and have no one with her. And lo and behold, what do we find out? There's a gentleman standing facing her as she's speaking to the laptop to the court in Dublin, telling her, tell them what you're fucking supposed to tell them. No more testimony. And slammed the laptop down. The young girl was assaulted giving her testimony. And we had a situation where this gentleman here, Senior Investigating Officer Mark Phillips, told the court through Senior Counsel Mr. Brendan Graham the following morning that there would be no investigation into this girl's assault during the course of her testimony. So this is only some of the events that took place, we say, through the looking glass. So if anyone is of the opinion of what's happening in Dublin at the moment and what, shall we say, the defence is proposing or saying or questioning witnesses on, and if there are being rebutted in some way that we're heading into the realms of Alice and Wonderland through the looking glass, we have long since passed that point. We are now 10 years and 2 months after the Northern robbery at Lordship Credit Union. There's still only 3 raiders allegedly on trial. This pathetic attempt by Mr. Stain and Brendan Graham to say there is an ongoing investigation to some degree is bullshit, because we have the list of all the people whom Aaron and these 2 men were in contact with on the phones over the course of the weeks previous to the murder and robbery. And none of those people could have been there. None of those people would have been there. This is a false narrative created because, as we said at the very beginning, the rabbit hole that Pat Marry and Sergeant John Maroney went down into Wonderland. They are the first people who went to Wonderland, because Sergeant John Maroney stopped Aaron Brady and Suspect A at the roundabout a couple of kilometres from the Northern robbery on the morning after Adrian Donahue had lost his life. Aaron told lies where he was the previous evening because he was laundering fuel, laundering diesel. He wasn't going to tell the guard that. Pat Marry and Senior Investigating Officer Pat Marry and Sergeant John Maroney went down a rabbit hole. And when they realised 4 to 6 weeks later that they'd made a complete mess of it, the investigation was in tatters, as has been told to us by Inspector Marry. Senior Investigating Officer Marry told us this in a very sincere, shall we say, podcast created by Ian Doyle and the Irish, I don't know whether it's the Star or the Sun, one of those. In 2016, the end of 2016, nearly 4 years after the Northern robbery, the investigation was in tatters. They had nothing. They had absolutely nothing. So Pat Marry, Sergeant Maroney and the investigation room in Fort Apache, Dundalk, realigned themselves and jumped through the looking glass into another Wonderland to create a narrative and to create an unsafe conviction and create the framing of Aaron Brady. So that conversation we had yesterday with the lawyer in America brought this to our attention, and we understand fully, and a lot of people are only coming round now to the fact that the campaign, everything we've said is true. And it has been borne out thus far in the courtroom in Dublin in relation to the ongoing trial. And we will continue to take information on that trial, and it will be proven this time that the information used by Garda Síochána and the DPP is false, curated, and it is a narrative that was brought together to create an unsafe conviction and the framing of Aaron Brady. So once again, thank you for joining us in our campaign. Please continue to like, comment and share. We are being seriously shadow banned once again. All our social media sites are being attacked in some form or in some shape. So we do have to keep getting our story out there, and to help those algorithms, we do really need you to like, comment and share. A big thank you to all those who are interacting with the site, and thank you all so much for your kind words. And we will continue to bring new videos, and we will be re-releasing videos from previous part of the campaign that are relevant to what's happening at the moment. So once again, thank you all so much for your support, and we'll see you again very soon in the next video. Thank you.